Hey guys, so it is currently 9:20 in the morning. Yeah, this is the time I'll be working up. I don't have class until like 1 o'clock, guys. But for today's video, we're gonna be talking about the epipelagic zone, and I'm gonna be talking about estuaries that you can find. But let's talk about it. So with estuaries, they're very, very common on the coast. So even though it's technically still a little bit part of the epipelagic zone, they're going to be found in the coastline. And an estuary is going to be the areas where the rivers meet with the ocean. So because of this, one important thing to talk about is going to be salinity. Because now that we're considering that the river water has access to the ocean, that's going to cause a change in the salinity. So it's very, very high variance. Pretty much the more upstream that you go, it's going to be less salty because that's where the river mouth is. But when you're talking about more downstream, that's going to be definitely saltier because that's where the ocean meets. A lot of the salinity changes, it's high variance. So because of that, a lot of the organisms and stuff have to be specially adapted to that as well. So with the salinity, we can talk about what it's dependent on. So it's going to be dependent on tidal flow, river discharge, and things like that. So those are all things that are going to change the salinity. Examples of this are going to be like San Francisco Bay and Manila Bay. So even though those are on like totally opposite sides of the world, they're both in the Pacific Ocean. So that's one thing we can look at. Another thing to talk about when it comes to estuaries is going to be the kind of environment. So the environment is going to be very nutrient dense. You're getting minerals and things like that from the river itself when the water is flowing down, but then you're also getting like tidal mixing due to the ocean as well. So that's going to be very, very nutrient dense. Now, these waters are often shallow also. So because they're shallow, they're going to have really, really good sunlight. And when they have really good sunlight, that means there's going to be a lot of photosynthesis going on. So yeah, most of the time it's brackish water, muddy water. There's like mud flats and things like that. So there's a lot of different textures going on when it comes to like soil, not necessarily soil, but like rocks and things like that.
Kelp forests are very prominent off the coast of California and are a main role in the marine environment, especially in the Pacific Epipelagic region. Kelp forests provide shelter and food for a multitude of animals. Some of these marine animals seen in kelp forests are sharks, various fish, snails, crabs, sea urchins, otters, and more. A lot of these animals do feed off each other in the kelp forest, as well as on the kelp itself. Kelp itself is the largest form of brown algae, and its most common form off the California coast is macrocystis, where macrocystis forests grow in excess. These kelp can grow as tall as 10 feet. Kelp, while important in the marine environment, is also used in agriculture and medicine.
I'm specifically focusing on the organisms in the epipelagic zone, things like tuna fish, sharks, and just a bunch of different animals that live along this zone. However, we're going to focus on 3 specific ones, some of which that might actually be your favorites. So let's get into it. For starters, we're going to go with whales. Whales are actually known as to be a big part of the epipelagic zone. They are a big reason why nutrients from the deep sea come up, and they are actually known to do a lot of different things. So for example, whales will actually socialize, hunt, and even migrate from the Pacific to different parts of the sea. But it also depends on the whale. For example, gray whales will come from the Arctic to the Pacific and will end up in Baja California due to the warm lagoons. Overall, whales play a very crucial part, and because they bring the nutrients from the bottom to the top, this helps and affects a bunch of different organisms like phytoplanktons, which the nutrients will allow them to bloom. So the next animal we're going to focus on is dolphins. Kind of similar to whales in what they do. They like to hunt, socialize, rest, and they also migrate across the epipelagic zone. Similar to whales, it also depends on what type of dolphin we're talking about to depend on where they're going. For example, a Pacific white-sided dolphin are known to migrate during the summer months and in the winter months. They're commonly seen off the coast of California in the winter, and then they will migrate to north to Oregon and Washington by May. So that's dolphins. Our final animal that we are going to be focusing on are the sea otters. Sea otters are one of the most commonly known animals. It is a lot of people's favorites, which is so valid. They're super cute, but they are a little aggressive, so I wouldn't recommend petting them. So they are located at this zone, and they are often seen doing one of two things, and that is hunting for food like invertebrates. But they also like to rest and socialize at the surface. But they're, again, not to be messed with because they can be very violent due to them being a part of the mustelids. I might be saying that wrong, but it's okay. family, meaning that they are closely related to badgers and wolverines, which are different from dolphins and whales, as sea otters are often known to stay in the same location for most of their life, if not their entire life. And this means they will often be found at the Pacific and will stay in the Pacific, but they can be found in different locations depending on what we're talking about. So yeah, that is sea otters, and I hope you really enjoyed that.